You're listening to SM Media, the home of exclusive West of Scotland Football League content. Hello, folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media West of Scotland Football Show. I'm Scotland Pike. It's always a pleasure to be your host. It's been a few weeks since we've been on. We've always had a busy time of it, but it's a pleasure to be back covering all things West of Scotland. It's always good to get the best guests in the league to come on and help you out, and it's always a pleasure to be welcome onto the show. Aaron Connolly, the manager of East Kilbride Thistle. Aaron, I've had you on in the past, but we've never ever discussed the West. It's a pleasure to have you on, mate.
Thank you, mate. Today, a few people knocked you back and you've come down the ladder to me. Is that what's happened to you?
No. Officially, no. No, it's always a pleasure, mate. As you know, it's good to have you on. It's been particularly a kind of it's wild ride, the kind of best way to discuss. It's been a tough kind of time at East Kilbride Thistle.
I think the club found itself in a difficult place. It has done for a number of years. I think that's overlooked at times. And obviously made a commitment to try and right that wrong last summer, and unfortunately things didn't go as planned and turned out to be a really challenging season. But I think we probably needed it, to be honest, from a club perspective. It's given us a real opportunity to reset, and we've got to hope that we come back a bit stronger in time.
Yeah, I think the thing as well is obviously like last season we were looking at it and there was a lot of experienced boys come in that you obviously knew. And do you think it was a difficult balance to kind of get all those guys in? Like, I mean, knowing some of them personally, they are big personalities, but I think it is difficult to get them out of jail, which you kind of went along with that as maybe been one of the big reasons it didn't work out.
I just think we brought in we basically rebuilt a squad last summer, and we were very lucky to get some of the players we did to the club. You know, some really good quality players, all good lads as well, and for a host of reasons it didn't work, and I think the club need to take some responsibility for that. I think the individual players probably take some responsibility in that, and I've taken the brunt of it as well. There was a host of reasons that it didn't really work, and it cost us in the end, but without going over all ground, it didn't work out. I think everyone kind of looked at what we were doing and probably liked what we were trying to do, and I think we had best intentions from a club perspective to try and push the club forward and get out of the third division up the way, albeit, and it just never petered out that way. And I could write a book on last season alone. It was just madness. It was madness at times, and I think the club probably accepted responsibility for most of the things that went on, to be honest.
I think one of the things as well is obviously like you looked at that league last season, and it's obviously the same this season. There's a lot of sides, and we kept talking about how important getting a run together was, and it just never ever felt that East Kilbride got a run. But when you're looking at sides, kind of like obviously I think 7 went down last year. It was always going to be tough if you didn't get that kind of run going, but it just shows you again just the competitiveness in the leagues and how important it is. You get a run going at some point because it can make all the difference.
It can, and we never done that. I don't think we won 3 games in a row at any point in the season.
Yeah.
We'd maybe win 1 or 2, maybe draw, and then we would lose a couple. And I think, people may not even know this, but we used 54 players last season. That's 2 full squads in a season. So absolutely zero consistency in terms of the team selection, because we essentially had to turn over a full squad. And maybe that's part of football at this level at times. It happens at other clubs, and it just so happened that we fell victim to that last year. But as I said, I think I genuinely believe from a club perspective, we probably needed those experiences. They've certainly helped me as a coach. I know they've helped the staff, and I know the players who we've managed to keep. We kept 16 the squad that finished the season, we signed 16 of them.
Yeah.
And that was a huge part of a commitment for this year, that we did have belief in the boys, and we had a huge belief in what we were trying to do. We felt like we could turn the corner going with the players that we had and just adding some more to that. So I think in 10, 11, 12 years at East Kilbride Thistle, there's been very few managers who've stayed longer than a year. And there's a host of reasons for that, and we don't need to dig into that now. But I think what the club need is probably consistency, both on and off the pitch. And that's why I came back initially about when I first came back as a player. My role was always going to be to try and build things off the pitch. unfortunately, I found myself in a position where I had to step in, and I'm still not convinced I want to be a manager, to be honest. But I'm enjoying it. I've got a great bunch of players, great staff. The club are starting to do things off the pitch, which are great as well in the community. And there's a lot of blueprints of clubs who are doing good work out there, and we just want to add to that. And if we can get things right on and off the pitch, then hopefully in time Thistle can start to go back up. But I think it's been a challenging probably 10 years for the club when you speak to the guys behind the scenes. Not helped by the emergency EKFC in that time. Massive amount of debt and stuff. The club's now debt free, as of a couple of weeks ago, and in a real position hopefully to grow again.
Brilliant. On to this season, obviously the fourth division. I think this is the first time we can say, obviously, with relegation, like it's going to be a real proper league. There's a lot of sides coming up, and there's a lot of sides obviously coming down, want to get straight back up. Sitting sixth at the moment. One thing that obviously catches your eye: 30 goals scored so far, 17 conceded. So there's a good goal difference, but there's a lot of kind of work to do. There's obviously been some good results in there. A lot of high scoring games. What's been kind of your thoughts of the fourth division so far, and how you have kind of adapted to it?
I think the league's been great. There's so many good young players in the league. I've seen most of the teams now, whether we've played against them or I've been out watching games through pre-season and stuff. There's an opportunity there because a lot of these clubs are community clubs as well. Your Thorn Athletics, Glenvale, and teams like St Peters, who've all come with a community background and all have a full youth pathway. They're Knightswood, another one, all giving opportunities to young players. We've had to do similar. And the sort of more established junior sides, if you like, are going down the same route. And I think what it's done, there's honestly some players I've seen who could go and step up 2 or 3 levels in a year or two's time. It's been a great league. It's been competitive in all the games. I think for us personally, we've been really hampered by selection issues, and it's probably cost us a couple of times. But as you say, I think we're the second top goal scorers in the full region. And people will say, you're obviously playing at the lowest level, but you get players relative to that. So I think we've certainly found ourselves to be exciting. I'd like us to tighten up a bit at the back, but I was an attacker myself. I'm an attacking minded coach, so but we're a decent watch, and I think there's a lot of teams who are similar in the league. Teams are obviously they're at the bottom, and a lot of the clubs are wanting to go and build and be a fixture in the higher divisions, and we include ourselves in that. So there's a lot of ambition even down there, as there is across the full region now with the pyramid. So I think what you have is a lot of ambitious clubs and a lot of ambitious coaches and players who are getting opportunities. I mean, I'm only 32. I think people forget that as well. Like, I'm still young for a manager, and there's a few managers in the league who are not too different in terms of age profile. I think what it's done is it's given opportunities to young players and younger coaches to go and try things and go implement your ideas and see if you can be successful. Yeah,
well, obviously we'll get your thoughts on the game at the weekend. Let's get into the Premier Division. We'll look at the kind of big results. We'll start obviously at Cumnock 2, Beath 4. Beath make it 6 wins out of 6 so far in the league, 100% record. Kieran Diver with a hat-trick. I have been very, very impressed with Kieran Diver making the step up to Beath. Obviously, it was going to be a tough job replacing Josh Fowler, who's doing really well out in the Middle East. But, I mean, it shows you, though, like, I think with Straney, he's obviously kept that really good balance, but he's replaced really well as well. And when you look at that regard, he's brought in a couple of good players, but the introduction of Kieran Diver is massive.
It seems to have been seamless for the boy. I think he scored 20 odd goals at Renfrew last year. And it just points to what I was saying about a minute ago. Going down the leagues is no bad thing. There's always good players available. It appears that Straney's done that. Bees have just continued on for last season. Lost a big player and they've managed to replace him with someone who seems to be making a similar impact. And that's obviously hugely important as a manager, particularly goal scorers, and they're not easy to come by. So if you do lose one, if you can replace them so easily, it makes your job a bit easier. But it takes hard work from a management perspective to go and identify these players. So credit where it's due.
100%. A big weekend for away wins, particularly with the top 4. Pollock obviously went to Hurlford and won 3-1. I think that was Hurlford's second defeat of the season. Pollock now got up to second. It's been a good kind of bounce back for Pollock. They had a bit of a difficult start. Obviously won at home to Talbot first day, but they had a couple of difficult kind of draws, but they were managing obviously to get a good run going now. I think as well, obviously looking at Pollock as well, they've obviously got a bit of an advantage. They're sitting with 18 points after 6 games. Pollock are 17 from 8, same with Clydebank. Start with Pollock, that's a big... Hurlford's never easy to go, particularly the kind of way they've started. So to go there, and Max will be buzzing with that, I think.
Pollock seem to just starting the engine now, aren't
they?
Putting together a good run. I mean, they've got some unbelievable football players in their team. Some good young players as well. I've seen Andrew Gallagher just signed a new deal.
Mhm.
He's a quality young player. So Maxi will be delighted with the run. As you say, Hurrell's never an easy place to go. Hendo's always got good experienced players. They always do well. So it's a massive result. And as it looks like Pollock are just starting to kick on a wee bit up. And it's always difficult in the early part of the season. You bring a lot of players into a squad and it takes a bit of time for it to gel. But Pollock seem to be starting to go up the gears a little bit.
Darvel are a side that are going up the gears as well. We'll start obviously with their opponents at the weekend. Irvine Meadow obviously made the decision to cut ties with Kevin Deeney as manager. I wish Kevin all the best. Got to know him a wee bit kind of over the summer. A really, really nice guy. Hope he gets another job in football. Ben Carson's kind of took over on an interim basis. It's a tough job at the moment, Irvine Meadow, because I think there's a lot of clubs suffering from this, and I don't know if you'll agree with me on this or not, but obviously Irvine Meadow a big name, but maybe one of the clubs at the moment who are kind of struggling to attract the level of player that they maybe are used to in the past. And I think it's difficult when there's a lot of teams kind of, as you know, kind of competing at that kind of top level. Meadow want to be there, but right now it is a difficult time for them.
I've found it tough for a couple of seasons now. I think, as I said, there's so much ambition in the leagues that teams are willing to go out and get big players in, and it's made it difficult for a lot of teams who previously were maybe hugely successful and don't quite have, I don't want to talk about budgets, but maybe don't quite have that same pulling power that they had. I think Meadow suffered from that. I think ever since Gint's left, they've never really felt like they had really settled down. Obviously left under a bit of a cloud, but I know Benji well. I played with Benji for a couple of years down ago. You know, great guy. I played my 20s. I've played his 20s a few times. You could see they had an identity, the way I want to play. So I hope Benji goes and does well. It's a tough first game for him, but I hope he does well over the next few weeks. And I'd love to see someone like that get a crack at it. Just a young coach getting an opportunity and at that sort of level. He's been at the club for years. You know, he's well liked within football as well. So I'd love to see Benji or someone like that get a crack at it, because they have tried and tested managers and it's not quite worked for them. So I wish Benji all the best. I really hope he manages to turn that around and maybe gets himself an opportunity.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Let's move into Darvel. Obviously 1-4-1 at Meadow at the weekend. Ian McShane with a double, Jordan Moore, Scott Ferguson on the score sheet. I just think with Darvel right now, like obviously I thought they were second half. They looked really good against Auchinleck when I watched them. Like Jordan Moore, I think once he gets into his groove, he's beginning to score goals. McShane's still a massive player, and they're just beginning to click, Darvel. And it's I kind of think now the kind of top four, they're particularly with Darvel, they could have a lot of big game players that could really help them if they want to push for the title.
Again, another club for a wee bit of a change in the summer. You know, lost a number of big players, obviously up to EKFC and things like that. And Tony's had to bring in some players, and it will take time for them. Again, they're on a good little run just now. It's a good win for them at the weekend. They've got some really good players. We played Darvel last year, and Ian McShane is one of the best players I've seen at this level.
Still can run it.
And I think, you know, Tony's one manager who's reached out to me a few times over the course of the last 10, 11 months and got a lot of time for him again. Hopefully he goes and does well. But in this early part of the season, I always feel like it does take teams time to kick on, and I think you're probably still 3 or 4 weeks away from seeing how leagues might pan out.
Yeah, certainly. Let's Clydebank as well. Big result away to Rob Roy, 1-3-0. You look at Clydebank's kind of depth, particularly like Nicky Little, Tom's Collins, Alan Kelly, go to Fort William and 1-9-1. Callum Graham's there as well, Nicky Lowe. There's a lot of players in there. They've got a lot of depth, and when they click, they look pretty good.
They've been consistent for a number of years now, Clydebank. Ever since Moff went in there, they've always been consistent. They've always brought good players in. Their 20s are always strong and pushing players into their first team. They've got a fantastic community club behind them as well. They do so much good work. They're the real blueprint, the real standard setters for sort of community club football, and I'm sure that they'll continue to build and grow, and you'll have aspirations of getting themselves back in the leagues. But Moff's done an unbelievable job there every year. They're at the top end. They're always being spoke about being at the top end, and even when they go through wee dips, they always seem to recover strongly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move into Benburn. Probably the kind of team that's caught your eye the most so far in the league in the Premier Division this season. Benburn are in 5th. 1-2-1 against Troon. Really, really good kind of run of results they've had. They've obviously beat some really good teams, Clydebank and Pollock. Beat Troon at home. We're under the cosh for a wee bit, and it just shows you they've got a lot of young talent, and obviously Paul's a really good coach, and they're going to fly under the radar this year. Now, I will admit already, I know we're only until September. I think Benburb was one of the favourites to go down. I would like to apologise to everybody at Benburb because I think even now, just having that run could be so important.
I think when you come up a league, it's important to start well. I think if you don't start so well, it's all find it tough then to try and turn that round. But they've started really well. They're really hard working, really organised. I've seen them once or twice over the last wee while. Exactly what Paul was as a player, to be honest. You know, they leave absolutely everything out there, and they've just got that wee bit of quality through the squad. Who seem to pop at Aaron Black's the one at the moment who seems to be popping up and getting goals. And I think they'll do well this year. I think it's important they've got a good start, and it gives them room for error if it maybe does drop off. That they're not going to find themselves fighting at the bottom at the minute. They'll have that wee bit of cushion to then correct things if it needs to be.
Couple of other clubs I want to get your thoughts on. Let's start with your old club Glenafton. Obviously, part of the company with Ryan. A couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you've seen him at the Masters, but he's took his. Do you know what I mean? He's quite like over his management. Ron Marco's in there now as manager, and obviously friend of the show. Wish him all the very best. But I think Glenafton on a similar boat to Irvine Meadow at the moment. I just think I look at the squad, and no disrespect, but I'm struggling to see a kind of a spark. I really am. Like I'm looking at them in 14th, and obviously having a lot of local interest in them. Like it's going to be tough because like Gartcairn, obviously big result for them going there and winning at the weekend. Gartcairn, they've got a lot of like young guys who are kind of target men. They'll score goals, and I just worry that Glenafton don't have that.
I've not seen them. I know someone who's down there, and I think they've struggled to attract players again in the summer. You know, they've got Marco's very, very experienced in terms of his football knowledge, and when I was a young player at Marco under Aaron, he was brilliant for me at the time. And obviously, Glenafton's a club I hold very special still for the time that I had there. I loved it. I really hope they can turn it around, but I think they're in a bit of a sticky situation. They probably need to get a few bodies in the door if they can, but it's getting to that point in the season where it's tough to do that because the good players are all at good clubs, and I think they might have a tough season, unfortunately, which hurts me to say. But hopefully Marco can turn it around, having stepped in with Steve leaving. Hopefully Marco can maybe get a couple of players in the door and help get them on back up the league. And
that's one thing with Marco, obviously knowing him quite well. He has a lot of contacts. He'll be able to get players in, but is it just the right players? Because it is a big, you know yourself, obviously Glenafton. It's similar. We'll touch on our club in Ayrshire who've got a similar problem. There's a big fan base who want results, and right now the league is so competitive, and if you don't get that run going, and it depends the level of player you get, and it's a bad time to get players in because, as you say, all the good ones are gone. So
I think the one thing for Marco is he's a big personality, isn't he? Yeah. He's not going to be fazed by it. And I think that's important. You know, he's been at levels way beyond this, even in his management career. So I don't think it will faze him. I think he'll probably relish the challenge, and he's a big personality, so he's probably the type of person that you want in at that stage. So you just got to hope that he begins to turn around.
Auchinleck, we'll touch on Gartcairn first. A big result for Gartcairn. I think second one of the season. I think Mick has been able to kind of recruit really well. It's been a bit of a kind of shaky start, but going to Glenafton, it's never easy, and I think that'll be a big result for him.
I think disappointed to see Gartcairn pick up, to be honest, because we played them in a couple of weeks, and I was hoping they'd still be on a downward spiral and we could maybe catch them on an off day. But a couple of big wins for them this week at Meda at home, and then going down to Glenafton and win that'll give them a drag in the arm, and they'll believe that they can start to get themselves back up the table. Obviously, came up last year, maybe took a wee bit of time to settle into it, but it's just such a competitive league, and it's an unforgiving league as well. Yep. And you need to try and get points on the board as often as you can, otherwise you can find yourself in a bit of a battle.
Let's move into the Auchinleck Atherley game. Obviously, Atherley, big point for them. Obviously, it looked like Auchinleck were going to get the result, but a late equaliser for Atherley. It's a big point for them. Obviously, takes them to 7 points for 7 games. Auchinleck, I know it's a tough subject, and I think a lot of people have kind of maybe looked at it in a different light to what I'm going to look at it in, but I did think they would struggle this year. I didn't think they would be sitting in 15th after 8 games. I didn't think it would be like that, but when you lose kind of big personalities, and I'm looking at the obviously well done to Graham Wilson in his testimonial on Sunday, but I'll look at the players that were at that testimonial, like Andy Leishman, Graham Wilson, kind of Brian Young, there's a lot of big names in there and big characters, and there isn't that. There's a few still there at Auchinleck, but there's been a lot of big players and big names left that club in the past couple of seasons. It's very difficult to replace them and expect the same results very quickly. Now, one thing that caught my eye when I was at Auchinleck a couple of weeks ago, there was a lot of young boys. Now, I know it's obviously kind of Tucker is kind of planning the rebuild and things like that, and it's going to take time, but when you've been winning for so long, how hard is it as a fan to kind of accept it might take us a couple of years to get anywhere near that? And that is going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the fans to really kind of accept that. And you look at a kind of big name like Auchinleck, and I think it's going to be very, very tough. And I don't think Tucker is in any pressure of losing his job. Now, I don't think that's ever been realistic, for the simple reason that there should probably be a statue of Tucker, Tommy Sloan outside that stadium. There should be, because you think Auchinleck, you think of him. And right now, I don't think there's a man in junior football, and I know it's not the juniors anymore, but I don't think there's a man in the west of Scotland I would trust if I was rebuilding a club with it than Tommy Sloan. I think he's the right man for this, but it is going to take time.
I think if anyone's bought themselves that time, it's Tucker.
100%, yes.
Done over the years. I think I've been involved at this level for 10, 11 years, and Talbot have always been there. He's a
staple, yeah. But
it
doesn't go on forever.
And it doesn't. And they are very young. They brought in a lot of young players, and they have lost loads of big personalities. And, you know, the fans are going to have to adapt it, and it won't be easy for them. And everyone at the club will be feeling the pinch just now. I don't think they'll be pressing panic buttons just yet.
No, they won't. I think some of the chat you were hearing was way off in terms of it's the right time to come with Tucker. That's not going to happen. There's too much respect. There's too much. There's too much of goodwill that won't end like that. He's earned the time to go out in his own way, and that'll be when he decides it won't be made for him, and that's the way it should be, because he's earned that.
I think he has. Absolutely, I don't think that's in question. Knowing all of them and having been around them for years, playing against them, I think he'll fancy the challenge. I think he'll understand how tough it is, but I'm sure he's, every day thinking about it, he'll be fancying it. He'll feel that he can get them back up the way. It might take a season or 2 seasons, but he's earned the right to go and have that opportunity. They have brought in a lot of young players who have done well, and I'm sure in time he will turn it around. I wouldn't bet against them going and winning one of the cups this year, because they're just that type of team. You'd never bet against that. But I mean, I got a lot of stick at Talbot over the years, so I'm not going to say that I'm unhappy that they're doing there. I'm quite chuffed at it. I'm quite chuffed at it. I think it's about time that they had a wee bit of struggles. But if there was one man that you wanted to put in charge of a club in terms of where they are and across these levels, then Tucker would be the guy. Yeah, absolutely. And Lags and St Cadoc's drew 1 each. St Cadoc's sitting in 10 points for 7 games. Lags on 8 points from 8 games. Two sides that have just been they've been fairly solid so far. Aye, again, you know what you get with Lags. They've been similar for years. Always a tough place to go. Always do well. Always get big results over the course of the season as well. They're always one of the teams who are going to beat a couple of top teams over the course of the season, and never really lose heavily, nothing like that. So always competitive. And St Cadoc's got a right good squad. Young manager with good ideas, and Fez. I know Fez really well, and really pleased for him to get the opportunity. I think he's 25, 26 years old, and unbelievable. But again, he's worked 10, 11 years to get this chance. He's just came from nowhere. So he's managed to get good players in next to him. He's got good staff, really good staff in with him. So I'd imagine St Cadoc's will have a good season as well, and Fez will be looking to take them higher and build that club towards competing at the top end in time. Again, both started fairly solidly. I don't think any of them, any of the two will be in trouble. Sure they'll trouble at the top 3 or 4 this season, but I think St Cadoc's over the next couple of years probably will have aspirations again themselves at this league and further up as well. Yeah, let's move into the first division now. I think we should just play the same kind of 2 minutes every week, because this league is just ridiculous, just in terms of how stacked it is. Rutherglen sat in top, Shotts in second in 17 points, Drumchapel in third in 16, Petershill 15, Maybole 14, Johnson 13, St Roch's 12, Blantyre 12, Colwyn in 11, and that's the top 9 split by 6 points after 8 games. That's insane. Madness. This league was similar last year. I think it's more competitive this year, because you've got a lot of sides like Shotts and
even like Maybole, for example, who you wouldn't have kind of thought at the start of the season, they started really well.
Aye. I mean, massive result of the weekend. It's up there with the result of the weekend in the full region. Maybole going away at
Yeah.
24. Again, good experienced players down there. Nick
Yeah.
McCann, Robertson, players like that. Been over the course and that helps massively. And it's a tough place to go, Maybole. It's always a horrible place to go and play. So they'll get plenty of points at home as well. So the league's this league is mental. It's so tight at the top, and I think it'll stay that way. You might have one or two who'll drop out, but I think you'll get 5 or 6 at the top end of that league who will be within a few points for most of the season.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's look at the results. Obviously, Ashfield 1, Drumchapel 5, Johnston 1, Maybole 4. Big result for Kilburn, 1-5-2 at home to Whitlets. They now are sitting in 15th away, 5 points. That was their first win of the season. Kilwinning Rangers 3, Blantyre 1, Neilston 3, Renfrew 2, Rutherglen 2, Cambuslang 1, St Roch's 1, Shorts 2, and Thornleywood 1, Petershill 2. I think the result of the weekend does have to be Maybole. I mean, you look going to Johnson, winning 4-1, big result. I think the result that catches my eye most is probably the one at Neilston, 3-2 at home to Renfrew. I think Neilston needed a big win like that.
Aye, obviously, I think they'd won 1 and 6 before this.
Yeah.
Hadn't started too well. And again, a club who always do reasonably well. Neilston always tough. I think Blantyre Vixen in a similar vein to Neilston. They're always really competitive in the league, and they seem to turn over players year on year, but get good players in. And that's a big win for them. Another big win's Kilwinning Rangers. They obviously didn't start particularly well, but Chris Aitken seems to watch these pre-match interviews every week and post-match, and he kept saying we're working really hard, it's going to turn for us, and he appears to have been right with that as well. But that's another big one for them. At home to Blantyre, Gibby's Blantyre teams are always organised, disciplined, really tough to beat. So another big result there as well.
I think we could win, and obviously, maybe a kind of similar vein to a lot of the kind of clubs in the Premier Division we spoke about. There's such a big fan base and such a high pressure fan base. They wanted results immediately, and I think with just a bit of patience, I think they're going to turn, because you look at Chris Aitken, that backroom team are so experienced at a high level. They are going to get it right because they've done it everywhere else.
Aye, and going by his own admission, they worked really hard, and he had the belief even at the end of last season when it was fairly obviously we're going to go down. He was coming out and he was maintaining the same message, and I think that's really important for players as well, that they see that the manager has that belief and has that belief in you as a player. I think that helps, and it just takes one result sometimes to turn that corner. And they've obviously put together a couple now, so I imagine you'll see them probably kick up the league a little bit and pick up more wins along the way.
You certainly will. Let's move into the second division. I'm maybe early with this, but at the early stage of September, it looks like you've got 3 sides who are kind of getting a bit of a run going and building a bit of a gap. Ardrossan are sitting top in 21 points from 8 games. Vale of Clyde 18 points from 7, and Cumbernauld United and 18 points from 7 games. You're then on to kind of Maryhill with a great start in 4th and 14 points. But the big 3, obviously, the kind of top 3 in the league, obviously winning away at the weekend. Ardrossan going to Caledonian Locomotives, winning 2-1. Vale of Clyde going to Larkhall, winning 1-0, and Cumbernauld going to Muirkirk, winning 1-0. Tight results, but I think we're already beginning to see the top 3 kind of pulling away a wee bit.
It's probably a bit early for that chat for me.
I know, but you look at it and you look at the depth they've got, it's difficult to...
I will say Ardrossan and Vale of Clyde were obviously both came up for the third last year.
Yeah.
Played against both of them, and the squad should never have been in third division. No. And I think, we'd said internally among our staff at the start of the season, those 2 could go up again. They were definitely both good enough, particularly Vale of Clyde at the end of the season, but they were the toughest team we played against last year. I didn't think they started the season great, but since John Hughes went in there, they just turned their corner and just really motored on. And feels doing it at Ardrossan's got an unbelievable squad for this level. They would have both fancied themselves quietly as well to go and really compete at the top end of this league, and they both started really quickly, got themselves at the box. And like you say, going away to teams when it is sticky, it can be tough at times. You're not going to get your own way every week. Coming away with narrow wins is what in turn leads to successful seasons, and I think those 2 will be up there. And I thought that before the season even started, having had the misery of playing against them last season.
Both fifth and sixth are dominated by three sides that won over the weekend as well. Maryhill went to Bonnet and won 4-2. I've been really impressed with their start, actually. St Anthony's as well, 3-0 away to Glasgow Perthshire, and Fourth Wanderers 1-2-1 at home to Kilsyth. Three good starts.
Aye, all done well. Maryhill finished last season strong as well.
Yeah.
I think they struggled in the early part of the season and finished last season strong. They've got Andrew Skinner, who left us to go there. He's scoring goals for fun and has done since he went. That always helps. The Ants are always, ever since it became the West, the Ants have sat in that second division being competitive every season. No budget. Danny always gets good players. They're young. We season, good game. Two young teams going at it, and it was a really good game, and I thought they were going to do well. They've actually probably superseded the expectations that I had from having seen them that day, but they just always seem to be competitive, and Forth have been similar for a couple of years now in these leagues. Again, another tough place to go, and they seem to have started well, and they were competitive last year. I think Kilsyth Rangers will probably do alright as well. I think once their team starts to knit a bit, brought a lot of good young players in the summer, but I think they'll do well. And Bonneton, I think Bonneton will probably do well as well.
Big ones for Craigmark, obviously going to Glasgow Union, winning 2-1, and Wishaw obviously have been a managerial change. That's a big result, going to Yoker and winning 2-1 as well. There'll be two sides, but Craigmark in particular, I think he'll be wanting to get a run on the board and maybe a difficult starts, and will be wanting to shoot up the table quickly.
I think I spoke to Cads recently actually, and he was saying just selection issues were causing real problems, a lot of injuries, a lot of players picking up suspensions and stuff like that. Maybe killed their start. He felt like once they got players back in, they'll start to kick on. So it's a good result for them, and potentially that will happen for them. I don't know too much about their squad, but I know Caddis was certainly feeling the pinch of those selection issues in the early part of the season. Wishaw, gutted for Dunny. Dunny's a good friend. Just again, we played them in pre-season, and at the time, I felt like they were going to struggle. I think we were 4-0 up at half time, and it's a pre-season game. It doesn't mean much, but I just kind of felt like they probably weren't going to be strong enough for that league. Again, another manager who said plenty of times to me he was having problems with availability, having problems attracting players in a league where his budget wasn't as competitive as others. So gutted that he walked away, but seems to have given them a little bit of jag in the arm. They went and got a result that's big for the club, and we just need to see who comes in and what they do next in terms of I know they've lost a few players as well since Dunny going, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out for them.
Yeah, best of luck to Dunny as well. Obviously, been a really good servant for Wishaw. Bells Hill sat top of the third division. They drew 3-3 at home with West Park United, and it was a really entertaining game. By all reports, I've been really impressed with Bells Hill start as well. Obviously, sitting with 23 goals so far, they're the only unbeaten team in the league. And West Park, I think, have been a side once Mick kind of got his idea what he wanted in terms of players. He's been able to obviously kind of get. I think this player scored a hat trick as well. Let me just get his name. Conor McCamery scored a hat trick for them as well. I think these are two sides that could be really, really impressive this year. And I think West Park now they've kind of got a balance in. They could really shoot up the table.
I tipped Bells Hill for this league. Again, another side who when they made the managerial change last year just completely changed in terms of how they played and got players in, and they finished the season so strong. We played against them twice in the last 6 or 7 games, and I just felt at that time that if they kept a hold of that core squad that they put together, added a couple to it, I felt like Dino and his management team would get them up in the top end of that league and season really strongly. And West Park, obviously difficult pre-season. You plan a full pre-season and manager goes a week before the season starts, and looks like it took them a wee bit of time to recover from that, but they've put a couple of decent results together again soon, and again recently, and look like they can now start to kick on a wee bit, but must have been so tough for them as a club to lose a manager a week before the season starts, having done a full pre-season planning.
Yeah, absolutely. Big start for Evan Vicks as well, obviously going to Ardeer winning 4-0. When you've got players like Kevin Adam and Savarese, they can score goals anywhere, and they had a really good start. And I did think at the start of the season they would be, if they were able to kind of get these guys scoring goals, they'd be really good. They'd be a really good side this year.
I think they were unfortunate last year. They were in the top 3 for most of the season.
Yeah.
They petered out a wee bit towards the end. I think Savarese got an injury last year, missed a few games, and I think that knocked them off their track a wee bit. But I always thought that if they could keep their group together and add some, they would be back in amongst it this year, and that was going to be the case. I think Kevin Adam, seen at the weekend, was 175th goal or something for Evan Vicks in his time there. He's a player, who's going to get 15 or 20 every season for them. Savarese's done the same in the season and a bit he's been there, he's scored a lot of goals, and really hard working team, really well organised under Dougie. They've done really well. I know he did really difficult first season when he first took over, but they've just built it up slowly, and they'll have aspirations of getting out of that league this year.
Vale of Leven sit third. They won 2-1 at home to Greenock. Garvin, big result for them. They won 2-1 at home to Les Mahago. They're two sides that have had a fairly solid starts. Vale of Leven sitting joint with Irvine Vicks on 14 points, and Garvin sitting fifth on 11 points, beating Les Mahago, obviously getting levelling points for them.
Again, Vale of Leven, another team. We were 14 points clear of them with 10 games to go or something last year, and they overtook us. I think they won 7 at the last 10. I think they signed a couple of players right on the deadline, and then just changed their full season and finished it so strongly. They've got 3 or 4 very good attacking players, strikers and wide players who are very dangerous, and they've just kicked on again this season. The Gow were probably unfortunate not to go up last year. I think they're the only team that's scoring and conceding more than us at the minute. Their games are wild every week at the minute. But
there's a lot, and they're 22 goals conceded, 27 goals scored. That kind of tells you everything, doesn't
it? They'll fancy themselves again to be in the round. They were unfortunate last year, and Govan are always a steady team. They have every couple of seasons they'll have a tough one, but they always seem to recover well and be competitive whatever league they're in.
I'm looking at some of Les Mahago's results so far. Owned by 7-6 win over Vale of Leven. Lost 5-4 away to Kilsyth. Drew 5-5 with Bells Hill. That's pretty good going, isn't it?
Because there's a couple of things. We were a 5 each and a 4 each. And I think those weekends they've outscored us.
Big result for Threave. They won 2-0 away to Dalry. Vinny Parker's obviously kind of lost his job down there. It's tough to kind of really know with that, because I think he lost his job just after a big victory, and I think that's a side at the moment, maybe Threave, I know we've spoken about this a lot, that's a side that will maybe be kind of looking so far and think we can be doing a lot better, but 11 points for 7 games isn't that bad?
No, it's not. I don't know a huge amount about them, but everything that I was told was they would fancy going and getting out that league, even though they'd come up from the fourth, being previous South of Scotland, and I think the expectation for them was to be at the top end. Maybe they pulled the trigger too quickly.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm not close enough to know, but never like to see managers losing their jobs 5-6 games into a season. But I think they had aspirations to go and be right at the top end of that table from what I was hearing in the summer.
I think as well, obviously the one in the Scottish Cup. I'm looking at their kind of results so far, and they've had a pretty good start. Like they've only lost. They lost at home away to Glasgow United and lost at home to Bells Hill. But apart from that, it's not overly bad reading. So it maybe kind of had pulled the trigger too early. But again, we'll see how that goes. Best of luck to Vinny as well. It's been the weekend of away wins. Like third division again. Funart go to Glasgow United 1-2-1. Port Glasgow, big result for them, beating Kilsyth Athletic 3-0. And Lanark going to Kelvin 1-4-2. It's just been a week of away wins.
Big result for Lanark. Obviously changed management team. Brought in a few players. Got a couple of wins under the belt. They looked as though they were in trouble, which was surprising. Disappointing for Simon when he left. Another guy who's helped me out over the course. Actually played against us at the weekend from Knightswood, but he was always someone to pick up the phone to. So I was disappointed with the start for him, and I think he felt the pinch of that and decided that he was struggling that a little bit. So big result for him. Good result for Funart as well. A good side, Funart, young side, a fairly young side. Done well to obviously won the first fourth division and kept themselves up, finished mid-table last year, and I expect that there will not be any trouble this year either. Got some really good players.
Let's move into the fourth division. Obviously, the place to start is at East Kilbride Thistle. 3-3 draw at home to the new side in the league, Knightswood. It was a tough game, but obviously, it's how would you kind of look back on it after the kind of what's the assessment of it?
I'm gutted for the players, to be honest. I think we gave away 4 chances in the game and conceded 3 goals. 2 of them are deflections. I thought we were dominant in the game. I really did. At times, it was some of the best football we played, particularly first half. But we conceded for a deflected effort for a corner, but we rally, and 2 or 3 minutes later, we get ourselves level. Getting at half time and just asking the players go and do the same. Creating opportunities. Their goalie is up there with one of the best goalies I've seen, and I'm not even joking. Really, really good. Made some really good saves first half, and then second half, we didn't start great. Second half, first 10-15 minutes, trying to play in areas where maybe it wasn't on. Decisions weren't great. They really got after us, pressed us quite high. We conceded from another set piece, disappointingly. But again, against the run of play a wee bit, and then we make a mistake and we're 3-1 down in a game where should never be 3-1 down. Fortunately, got a water break, roasting, got a water break, 3-1 down, 25 minutes to go, and just said to the players at the time, keep believing, just keep playing, keep going. You've created opportunities, you'll get more. And see, to be honest, we could have scored 5 or 6 in that last 25 minutes. We absolutely blew them away after that, and I just felt devastated for the players that they never got the win. But you know, it's a point gained, and that's 3 times this season. I probably felt like we've been so sloppy defensively that we've put ourselves in really precarious positions and then scored last minute equalisers, and that just points to the character and resilience of the group that probably formed over the course of last season when we had that real tough time and it was a young group and we were up against it. We just seen them; they were growing together, despite the results being difficult. They were still going out and trying to implement the style that we're trying to play. They were working so hard, and the boys have come back pre-season. They've worked incredibly hard.
Mm-hmm.
We've had 8-9 players missing most games with a couple of long-term injuries, with a couple of boys away all summer. So the squad's starting to get 4 or 5 bodies back in who will be big players for us, and we just wanted to can we stay in touch at the top of the league in the first 8-9 games, and then when the squad starts to settle, you know, can we kick on and put together a run that we probably didn't do last year. I think we've lost 1 game in 8 this 8 or 9 this season. One of them a cup game against the team 2 leagues above, which we go and win in penalties, and it's been a decent start. I think we've chucked away a few points. I think in terms of maybe not being great defensively at times and some difficult, poor individual errors without singling the boys out. I think they know themselves. If we can tidy that aspect to the game up, like I said earlier, we're the second top goal scorers in the full region. We're dangerous going forward. We'll always score goals, but we need to tidy up other aspects of play. But in terms of the game at the weekend, it was the least we deserved was a point. I think Knightswood would be open enough to admit that as well. And pleased for the lads that they got it, and in the fashion they got it, 2 goals in the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game always gives you that lift. But when you reflect on it a few days down the line, it does feel like a couple of points dropped.
Yeah, and it's obviously it's when you look at the kind of way the leagues went, and obviously St Peters have had a really good start, but I don't think many people would have thought St Peters would lose at home to Royal Albert this week. So it shows you this league. There's a lot of good sides in it, but no disrespect to Royal Albert, but that was probably one of the biggest results of the weekend, or like the most surprising results of the weekend across the West for me.
That's up there. Royal Albert again recently changed manager 3 or 4 games ago, just
Aye.
before they played us. And I think they've got a few players in. I think they were playing a lot of 20s at that point and signed a couple and probably potentially added more. Again, a club, by the way, one of the best clubs in the region to go visit. Royal Albert
100%.
can't do enough for you. For all the bad times they've had, all the struggles they've had, their committee are different class and really look after you. And you know, just to keep a club like that going must be hard enough, let alone try and be competitive. And there's so many good clubs in around you. So fair play to them for going and getting what's a massive result, huge, going and beating St Peters. But I think you'll see that in this league, the age profile, a lot of the squads. I look at my squad, I've got 23 signed players, the average age is 20, and so many squads are the same. And you'll see teams have shock results because the young players will be up and down. So I think the league will be competitive because of that. I think there's Glenvale, St Peters, Thorn Athletic, they're all really good footballing sides. Ourselves, you know, Eglinton will feel like they can kick on after a big win at the weekend. Loiger have got a good squad. I think it'll be a really competitive league. It's an exciting one. I think you look at through the results every week, there's always loads of goals, and ultimately, you know, we're in football to do well, but the people come to watch are there to be entertained. I think this league certainly gives value for money in terms of that.
Yeah, Glenvale, the only unbeaten team in the league so far, they won 4-2 home to BSC. I've been really impressed with Glenvale, and I know obviously I did kind of fancy them to do quite well at the start of the season, but just looking at their goals, they're scoring a lot of goals. Sean Daly, James McLaughlin have started really well. Brian Connor in there as well. They've got a lot of good players in there, and they could be really good this year.
Really good side, well coached. I've seen them twice now. Went down and watched them at Eglinton last Friday as well. You can see their ideas. You can see very clearly what they're trying to do, and you can see that they're well coached. But they fight and scratch and scrape and battle for everything. You know, every goal that scores, the full bench is up running down the line to celebrate. They just look to have a real togetherness as well, which I think is important. They've started really well, and I think they'll be one of the teams who will be in that top half. Top 3 or 4 of the league, and St Peters another one very similar to Glenvale in the way that they play Thorn as well. You know, all from a similar area actually, but again, I've seen all three of them this year played against Thorn. Just all good football sides, all young, all work really hard, all well coached, and I think that's what you're getting in this fourth division with so many young players coming through. That it's going to be ultra competitive. There's going to be a lot of teams who fancy themselves to get up in that top end of the league.
Thorn won 5-0 away to Carluke. Giffnock 5-1 at home to New Mains. But again, another side, maybe they've kind of scored a lot of goals. They've scored 32 goals this season. I think they're the top goal scorers in the league, actually, apart from Glenvale. Just maybe been kind of lost a few goals defensively, but they're capable of giving some teams some real good games.
I think they put 10 past Royal Albert, definitely.
Yeah.
Again, another really young side who I think I've watched a lot of 20s football last year where we were trying to find players to bring in. I've watched a lot of my 20s. I think the sort of players coming through now and the coaches coming through now, they all want to go score and attack. And I think you're seeing that in our league, that we are guilty of that as well. You know, we just want to get the ball and go and attack teams. I think a lot of the teams that we've played against seem to be fairly similar. So at least to high scoring games, at least to exciting games. But yeah, I've not seen Giffnock yet this season. Can't comment too much on them, but they've had a couple of good results. Knightswood are the same, very young team, but they've had a couple of big results as well. And teams like that will do that over the course of the season.
Lugar 5, Easterhouse 1, Rossvale 3, Saltcoats 0. Two sides again, Lugar, Rossvale, two sides that will be fancying their chances. They've had good starts.
Aye, Lugar, some really good experienced players. Again, another team who came down with us but finished the season fairly strong. Obviously, I had David Gillies through it last year and a couple of experienced boys in there. You know, George Wallace is the manager, seen it all, done it all. Although I used to do his running for him. He's won everything at the level as a player, so he knows exactly what's required. And I'm sure Lugar will be competitive. Rossvale, Josh Gardner's built a full new squad there, but it's all boys he knows. It's all boys he's worked with previously. You know, he's been coaching a long time. I think he's the same age as me, Josh, but he's got far more coaching experience than me. I think Rossvale will be a good side as well. I think, as I said, I think over the next 3 or 4 weeks, you'll see all the leagues start to take a bit of shape, and I expect all the teams at the top end of that fourth division at the minute will be at the top end throughout the course of the season. It will be competitive up there.
We'll have to give a mention to, obviously, Eglinton's 5-1 victory over Campbelltown Pupils. Graham Muir with 4 goals. Never ever thought we'd see that again.
I can't believe, I'm in a group chat with Murray. I still can't believe he scored 4 goals. Crazy. But, I mean, that's a massive result. Eglinton had struggled, and Campbelltown's not going to be an easy place to go. And I've spoken to a few managers who've been up there and heard it's not an easy place to go. So that's a huge result, and probably a huge shot in the arm for them. I seen them the other Friday at home to Glenvale, and I thought they struggled in that game, but they've went and got a massive result, and they'll feel like they can kick on. I see they've signed a couple of players this week as well, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out for them.
How unsufferable do you think Murray would have been in that bus trip down the road?
I'm sure he had plenty to say about it. I mean, a couple of them must have been tackles. They must have just been running into 50-50s and the ball hitting half and going in.
Aye, but a serious note, it's great to see, obviously, him back. Eglinton doing quite well so far. They'll be a side that will kind of just be hoping. They've had 3 wins for 7 games. I think they've had a tough start as well. They've had some tough opposition. They'll kind of fancy their chances the next few weeks as well. They've been a side that I've obviously had a lot of time for Willie and Robert down there as well. So interesting to see how they got on. East Kilbride Thistle, let's move into talking about what's coming up for you. There's a few cup games that catch the eye. Obviously, away to Carluke this Saturday in the south. A big trip to Aberdeen East End in the Junior Cup, and then obviously a home tie to Gartcairn in the west. Cup runs, it's big obviously for the side, but how good would it be for the kind of buzz round the club to have a good cup run this year?
We would love it. We'd love to go far and win not even far, but to win a few rounds. I think I said to the boys before Muir Kirk last weekend, the club didn't win a cup game last season. So we wanted to right that wrong. And we did. You know, I'm still disappointed we didn't do it in 90 minutes, but you know, the boys done well to go and get through it in penalties, scored every penalty, and then young goalkeeper makes a save for their 10th one and gets us through. So that was a big thing to tick off the list. Can we go and win a cup game, because we've not done that. We didn't do that last year. Gets us a great draw. Like, I was buzzing when I heard it was Aberdeen East End who'd come through the other tie. You know, everybody at this level loves a bus trip, and we're excited for that. I'm not sure the committee are excited looking at the cost of bus these days, but the players and staff are excited for that. It's another we done it in pre-season, went up to Lochee and then came back down on the bus, and it's just an opportunity for the boys to spend time together, which I think is hugely important. So delighted to be in the hat for that. Again, Killook this weekend, we played them in the league a few weeks ago at home, and we came out fairly worthy winners that day, 1-6-1. Played a good day in front of goal, in fairness, but I thought we were well worth a victory. So this brings a different dynamic. You're going away from home, it's a cup game, completely different. Killook have obviously have played against us now, so maybe not quite so cold with some of the ways that we play, and we'll prepare themselves, and I'm sure it'll be a tough game on Saturday. But again, it's one that we want to go and win. Can we go and get through another cup, get into the next round of another cup, and see what comes? And then Gartcairns, obviously, I mean, they're out of our stratosphere in terms of leagues, but as I said, we've had them watched, and we'll do as much homework as we can. We'll prepare for it as much as we can, and then see if we can go and compete closer than we did at times last year, with a couple of tough cup games last year down at Glenafton. I think we lost 7-8-1, and Darvel we lost 8-2 or something. I mean, we competed with Darvel for about 15 minutes, and we were raving about it at the time, but we had some tough, difficult ties in the cup last year. So again, the message to the boys ahead of that game will be, can we go and compete greater than we did at any point last season against these bigger sides? And that's all it is for us. It's incremental steps in terms of the club and the players and the development of the players. I think what we've got is a great core group of players, boys who want to be successful for themselves and each other and the club. Most of them are local boys. They've played for the 20s or the 21s over the last couple of years, and they've all committed to trying to rejuvenate the club as a whole. And what they see is, we've done summer camps and stuff in the summer. Players were popping down. One of the players coached it for 4 weeks, so they're all sort of buying into that aspect. And I think that's where we need to go. So we need to continue down that route, and I think that's something we're trying to build. A real togetherness, a real community feel to a club that's not been there for many years. So we've got the buy-in from the boys, and they've been fantastic in that aspect. So we've just got to hope we can keep on improving incrementally, and maybe along the way we'll get through a couple of cup ties, maybe even put off a shock at some point, but we'll not get ahead of ourselves. The focus for now is on Killook on Saturday. Right? Couple of training sessions. We'll work hard on our preparation as we always do, and we'll hopefully go and get through on Saturday, and then we'll look at what comes up next after that. I'm
wishing you all the best for that, Aaron, as well, obviously with the club. And another thing as well is, obviously, it's really good to see you enjoying your football and things like that. It's obviously it's great to see just how good you're kind of doing at the moment, and kind of fingers crossed everything goes well at the club.
Aye, thanks. I'm loving it. I never wanted to be a manager. I think I said at the start, I'm still not convinced I want to be at the longer term. I found myself presented an opportunity, and the boys make it worthwhile. You turn up to train, you ask the boys to do things, they do it, no questions. They work so hard. The staff I've got support me, assistant manager Staley, Hughesy, Andy, they all work so hard. We're out as a staff, we're out almost every night of the week, whether it's our training, we go and take 20s training, I'll support that. We're out watching games on a Friday. We were out watching a 20s game yesterday as a staff. So everyone's really buying in, and that makes my job easier. And as I said, my playing career, I probably never put as much into it as I should have. So now with the coaching, and obviously at work, I do a bit of coaching at work as well. So as much as I can, and what the club's given me is an opportunity to learn, and I've learned so much in terms of how to actually put together a team, how to actually manage individuals and players, and all the stuff you don't think about as a player. It's 24/7, but I have loved it, and I think it's helped by the support that I've got around me, and the players really, and the fact that the club are really ambitious to try and rebuild as a community club. We look at, as I mentioned, a few clubs. The blueprint's there for us. East Kilbride is a massive room. There's so many kids who are not at clubs as well that we just want to provide opportunities for in terms of football, and hopefully that helps us grow, as well.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And it's great to obviously see how well the club's doing and how well you're doing as well. And thank you very much for coming on, mate. I've loved it.
Thanks for having me, Scott. Cheers,
top man. Thanks, mate. Thanks very much to everyone who's tuned in. Please follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. And we'll be back next week for a new episode of the West of Scotland Show.